Hey, it's Ben from the Warehouse Underground podcast. Running out of space in your facility. It is one of the worst things that can happen. Completely slows down your op. But the customer doesn't care. That's your problem, right? But it doesn't have to be. There is a solution out there that can be a shelter in the storm until it blows over. And that can come from Warehouse on Wheels. They deliver on-demand storage trailers when you need them that flex with your operation. And with locations all across North America, there's a very good chance that they can help you too. No long-term leases for a new facility, no delays, no overpaying for space you don't need, no CapEx, just simple, smart storage delivered right to your door. So don't let your dock and your aisles become jam-packed with pallets wrecking your operation. No, let WOW be your side storage solution while you go back to focusing on mainline operations. Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to episode number 30 at the Warehouse Underground podcast, Real Talk, for warehouse, DC, and FC professionals of all levels around the globe. I'm Ben, the host of the show, and joining me on the show today is a cool guest that I'm really excited to talk to. His name is Dr. Vernard Jenkins. He is the VP of Operations at Knight Swift Warehouse and Fulfillment, which is a big 3PL with a nationwide footprint in the United States. He's been doing that role for about 2 years now. So I'm excited to have him on the show to talk about some warehousing and distribution stuff because he's had a stellar and very successful career in that. But also, I follow him on LinkedIn and he's putting out some great content. I'm talking some very insightful articles about leadership and development and mentorship and really giving back to the next generation with his content there. And he's recently started a video series on LinkedIn called Dinner Conversations with Dr. V, which is awesome. Super cool. Like bite-sized nuggets of goodness and wisdom coming from him from a well-earned and well-executed career. So excited to have him on the show today. We actually share a little bit of a background too. We'll talk about that in the show. He came out of USAF at the same time. So I'm gonna ask him a couple questions about that, just between me and him. We'll have a little bit of a conversation there. But with that, I will bring him on the stage right now. Bernard, my friend, thank you very much for coming on the Warehouse Underground podcast. How are you today, sir?
Hey, I am doing well, enjoying this California weather. So I was in Dallas and I made a trip out here and it was cold in Dallas. And then when I got off the plane, it was nice and warm here. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going back home. So
I love that. It's pretty. I'm in Georgia. It's been pretty cold in Georgia, so I'm jealous of the nice sunny weather out in California. So,
yeah.
dude, I talked a little bit about it in the intro. You have had a fantastic career in warehousing and distribution, among some other things. Can you just tell the audience a little bit about your background in that industry, kind of how you got to where you are today, and what's a day in the life like for you now in your current role and your current operation?
Yeah, I happened to get into this by happenstance, man. I was in the military, stationed in northern Japan, and was like, okay, what am I going to do in this next period of my life? And got with a military recruiter and actually had 9 interviews in one day down here in Dallas,
Whoa.
Texas. And it was arranged from sales to everything. And end up getting on with Target, their distribution center, and they moved the fastest. Literally, I interviewed, and a week later, I had an offer. So moved from Japan and started my warehousing career at the Target distribution center in Midlothian, Texas. So I was there for 5.5 years. Various roles that they had me doing throughout, really grew and got my feet wet when it came to leadership in the warehousing and wanted to lead at a higher level and found a company called Stitch Fix. I'm sure now that you'll see the commercial once I'm talking about it as well. And
Yeah.
they were subscription, more of the e-commerce as well. And once again, continue to grow and learn a lot. Was there for 3.5 years. And then I said, okay, I still want to lead at a higher level. So what do I do? And I end up going to the grocery sector, working for the main grocery here in Texas called HEB, and came in and joined them right at the height of the pandemic. So I understood, really that supply and demand and really more of that demand from a grocery standpoint, and was with them for 3.5 years, and got the opportunity of a lifetime. A friend of mine that I knew told me about Nice Swift Warehousing and Fulfillment, and he basically sent me the information. And a week later, I got the job and came in as the director, and made a really positive impact. And within 8 months, I was promoted to the vice president of operations for the company as well. So we handle multiple different customers on the 3PL side. There's one customer that we've been with for 40 plus years that we actually have supported as well. And I'm primarily responsible for the day-to-day strategy. I try to stay 1 to 2 year ahead of the
Yeah.
operation to make sure that we are going in the direction that we need to, and try to remove obstacles before they actually get there, to support the growth of the team as well.
Yep. Yeah, and I've seen you, you mentioned the teams that you have. I mean, I imagine with a nationwide footprint like that, you've got all different types of people, right? All different cultures, all different demographics, and I've talked about that in warehousing a lot. You see that, and so I know you feel this way. I mean, great teams are essential to good operations in this industry. So before we get into your stuff, what do you think separates the teams at your organization now? I mean, what sets them apart from other sites that you've been a part of?
Yeah, the big one is, and I think I put this in a post, is my team really has the ability to be agile when it comes to
Yeah,
operations. When you talk about customer service, you've got to be able to respond quickly to their demands. I know on one side we had one specific customer, and I've been with the company 2 years, and we've had three different leaders that supported this account, and they all have been three different type of individuals. One of a more traditional, one was in the middle, and one was very, very kind of like KPI reporting driven. And we
yeah,
adapted to every single one every single time. And literally, they come to us seeking for advice, and we were able to provide those answers and pivot really, really fast when it comes to all their demands. And that's always been our superpower overall. And that's what we leverage on when we reach out to new customers.
yeah. And I think in this industry, I mean, the ability to be flexible and agile is, I agree, paramount. I mean, not only do things change month over month or week over week, sometimes they're changing day by day, hour by hour, honestly, with
Yeah.
all the different variables that can happen that can come up. So, how do you, I mean, some people naturally kind of gravitate towards being able to do that, but sometimes other people have a hard time with that. So, as the leader, how do you get your teams to embrace that as being
Mhm.
part of the operation and not something that they just kind of throw their hands up and make an excuse for, or say that's not my fault? Because I think that's a kind of a challenge, is changing that mindset of no, like being flexible and agile is what's expected of you. It's part of it. It's
Exactly.
not anomaly. So how do you get them to get to that point?
Yeah, when we talk about being proactive and creating those cultures, it's about recruiting the right individuals that
Ah,
actually have that mantra. You don't want to bring anybody to the team that doesn't have the same values or the same mentality, because it makes it really, really hard to integrate a lot of those things. So I work really closely with our HR team to bring in the right talent. The other one too, as a leader, is, man, we got to model the behavior. If
yep,
something changes or something happens, and I'm all pissed off and upset, and I'm not responding or providing solutions, people take on the mentality and the image of your team. So if you
yep,
don't model it, you're you're not going to get the result that you want overall. Another thing is over communication. When you take your team for the journey, when you let them know what's happening and what's going on, it gives them time to fill their head with potential changes and things that may be happening. So they're already proactively thinking through, okay, he said this, he told me what may be coming next. I can be ready for it, and I can adapt and move quickly as well. And I think the last thing just to think through, is anytime change happens, you have to handle it in a positive manner. You got to
yeah,
see it as, especially in our business and customer services, how can I use this change as an opportunity to drive my business forward? And if you do those different things, it really helps to build those agile teams in this unpredictable environment.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and I think too, once you create that environment and that setting, then the more repetitions that people get, I think in that, the stronger they get because
Yeah,
they're conditioned for it, right? They're ready for the
exactly.
growth. So then reps lead to positive instead of just stress and decay and all
Yep.
those things. So I really like that. Now let me ask you this question: speaking about the industry as a whole, the warehouse and distribution industry as a whole, I mean, what do you think about the state of it right now? I mean, you're in it. You've seen a lot
Yeah.
of different leaders. You know what's coming down the pipe, what's changing. I mean, do you think that this is an industry that's on the rise, that is something to be excited to be a part of, or do you think maybe it's on the decline because of the rise in, or the alleged rise in, automation and robotics and all those things? I mean, what do you think about the state of it now and what it looks like over the next maybe 5 to 7 years?
Yeah, I think we're in a good place overall. And the main reason why is because you see a lot of individuals adapting to the market or the changes that are happening. Early when I got in, manual labor was huge. You bring more people to solve the problems, and you constantly push people in and out, right? And then there came this kind of like technological twist, or hey, you got to get with technology, you got to do this and that. Well, now you're trying to see in the market, there's a balance of between the two, meaning you utilize technology to help you do like mundane, simple, repetitive tasks. And then you save the people side for more of the problem solving, more of the
Yep.
innovation, more of the critical thinking so that you continue to adapt to changes and do things differently. I think also too is e-commerce is huge, man. I remember Amazon when they were selling books, and look at what they're doing now. And you have TikTok stores. I mean, everything, all the ads that pop up on LinkedIn or Instagram are all e-commerce, and that's a hope for a lot of individuals because the growth of e-commerce means more warehouses, meaning more
Yep.
jobs that'll happen for individuals, and because we as a world have this new high customer expectation, there's always going to be room for how can you do it faster, how can you do it better, how can I can click something and get it in 2 minutes versus back in the day it took like 2.5 weeks to be able to get it. So I really think we're in a good state, being able to balance the two to be able to support all the change that's happening nationwide.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I've kind of spoken about this before on the podcast. And one of the reasons why I do it is because I want other people that are not in the industry itself. Maybe they're connected with it or they're surrounded
Yeah,
by it, but they're not in it. But I want them to know that how the warehouse was painted back in the day, just
yeah,
put box on shelf, take box on shelf, big guys driving around on forklifts, dusty, that type of image is nothing like what is like to now. I mean, it is complex and layered and high pressure and technology. And frankly, a really high hiring bar. Like you already mentioned, the importance of hiring. I mean, the caliber of people I think now that are working in this industry is very high. I mean,
very.
very very high. And you find these fantastic leaders like yourself that arise in this industry because one, there's so much on the line from the customer expectation, like you said, in 2025, you must perform and perform well. But but two, you have all these different classes of people, all these different types of people, all this diversity and all this like, spectrum of everybody. And so if you don't have good leadership in that
Mhm.
type of environment, you you're going to sink because it's a challenge sometimes to lead a very diverse labor force. And
Yeah,
I would argue that warehouse and distribution has the biggest spectrum of that, of all the industries that are out there. Manufacturing, obviously, but
yeah.
it is not your grandpa's warehouse, I think, these days in the industry.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Uh,
So let me say this. So I mentioned this in the beginning. Okay, I love dinner conversations with Dr. V. right? So I've looked at them all on LinkedIn because they're right there. By the way, I hope anybody who's listening to the show will follow you and listen to these. They're like a minute video clip, 2 minute video clip with just this great stuff, right? This inspirational stuff, good lessons. It's kind of like chicken soup for the warehouse leader soul, right? But not just necessarily warehouse. Anybody who is in a leadership position or wants to kind of enhance their life, right? Just enhance their performance in their life. So, what was your inspiration for starting something like this, and kind of how has it been received by? Because I'm sure the people that know you inside your own company see it, right? Because
Yep.
they follow you. So, how has it been received by everybody that's your audience or your followers?
Yeah, it really started. I do a lot of unofficial mentoring. People reach
Yeah.
out to me and, they want advice, or guys that used to work for me that wanted advice. But I can take even further back into the history. So I remember when I took over, I was the director of operations for a unit in Misawa, Japan. And I was a young leader, and I had a young group of individuals with us. And I was responsible for their success and helping them. So what I did was, every week I would observe what was going on in the unit, send a weekly kind of like knowledge email, and then we would sit in the comment area, and I would just talk to the young guys about what they learned for the week, what did they do, what are their future plans, or the email I would send, we would actually talk about it. Well, this transcended into every job that I've had since, and this is back in 2009. So I've been doing this since 2009. And every job that I went to, I've always sent some sort of like weekly email with some sort of nugget, hey, and the
Yeah.
names have changed over the years. So then when I got my doctorate, and I was like, okay, well, what can I do? You know, how can I continue to impact other individuals? And I was like, well, I can do some content and put some information out there. But
Yep.
when I looked at the state of where we're at today, and connection and closeness is slowly depleting because of technology and the different things that we do. And I remember TV shows back in the day where everybody would sit at the dinner table and you would get those lessons, and you just
Yep.
remember those moments. And I was like, I want to recreate those moments again. That's dinner conversations with Dr. V, right? Where we sit down and
Yep.
we just talk about real stuff, things that we go through that we don't necessarily talk about every single day, or that we don't talk about in leadership. And you have to be able to know that leadership transition and at home and your work life, and at work and your life as well. And it's been very, very well received, man. Like, I've
Good.
had guys reach out to me from Africa, asking for mentorship. It was funny, we were doing a staffing showcase not too long ago, and one of the girls in the staffing agency was like, "Are you Dr. V?" And I was like, she's like, "I love you. I follow you." And I was like, "I've never seen this person in my life." And what I learned on social media is that even though you don't get the likes and people may not
Oh,
comment, people are watching. They are
100
watching.
100%. And I tell that to people all the time, right? I got the podcast and the website and I'm out there too, right? But I am sort of naturally an introverted person. Yeah, and I tell that to people, and so they're like, "What? But you're out doing the podcast?" I'm like, "Yes, because I feel an obligation to give back, right, and mentor people that I don't." And I know people are watching, and I always encourage, like, if you are apprehensive about putting your goodness out into the universe, don't be, right? Don't be, because guarantee you there's somebody that was like me 10 years ago or 15 years ago that's just lurking around that is going to hear that and consume that. And you just have to have faith that that's happening. Right. So
Yes.
I super respect what you're doing with that. It's free and everything. And it's really good advice because sometimes, and I've fell victim to this too in my career where we both had a military career, and so we've had all these different levels, and sometimes you get to the point where you've heard the same lessons in your own life so many
Yep.
times, right?
Yep.
And you're like, I get it, I'm over it or whatever. And but what you don't realize is that that young kid that's coming up hasn't heard it 50 times like you.
Yeah.
And so you owe them your best, right? With as if they're hearing it the first time. Like if you're in a band, you played your hit song 100 times, but
Yeah.
the next time you play it may be the first time that kid in the audience hears it. And so I think that's something that content creators need to remember is, you owe you put yourself in their shoes at their phase in life and give them the best guidance and mentorship that you can. And
Yeah.
if you want to, like, I have a whole nother show, by the way, called the Tiger Team Show. And that's where I do all my like jaded, sarcastic wit and humor and everything. I get it out there. But for the mentorship, the podcast and everything, and what you're doing with of your stuff, Vernard, dinner conversations is awesome, man. And
Yeah.
I respect it. I love it. I hope you continue to do it because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
I
really,
love it,
really
man.
good.
I love it,
Yeah.
man. So
It is good stuff. So let me ask this. So not only do you do dinner conversations with Dr. V, but you've written a lot of great articles,
mm,
right? And when somebody writes an article, okay, you do a 2-minute video or a minute and a half video, you kind of know it. But when somebody writes an article, usually it means they put much more thought into it, right? Much
oh
more
yeah.
heart goes into that. And your articles about leadership and operations and everything are fantastic. But I noticed there's a little bit of a slant towards what I'll call like soft skills. And those
Yes.
are the type of skills that you really can only sort of develop through reps, but also mentorship. So how how do you where do you come down on the soft skills in terms of how important they are for leaders to develop to really thrive? That, sort of like IQ versus EQ type
Mhm.
thing. Where do you think about that?
Yeah, soft skills is in everything we do. I mean, we're doing soft skills right now, just a simple communication. Soft
Yep.
skills are transferable, where we have hard skills are not necessarily transferable. So I always use this example when I talk to different people. So let's think about chefs. In
Okay.
order to be a chef, you have to have a specific hard skill, right? You got to know how to use a knife. You got to know the different recipes, right? You have to be able to do that to be just to get through the door, and they can come dime a dozen. But the great chefs know how to interact with their environment. They know how to
Okay.
communicate inside the kitchen. They know how to work as a team with the multiple different individuals that are in there. They know how to build those relationships. They know how to handle the pressure that comes within there. And that's what makes them truly successful when it comes to it. So that's why soft skills are so important. Even something as simple as a icebreaker that I usually do
Yep.
sometimes, where I said, "Hey, you got a minute and 30 seconds to you put you in a group. You have a minute and 30 seconds to figure out what do you have 5 things you have in common." And I said, not
I like that.
y'all all are wearing shirts or wearing shoes,
Yeah.
right? And they come together and they hurry up and do it. Now, most icebreakers help break they get people engaged. But really is you utilizing soft skills. Because if you think about it, you have to communicate because one person has to stand up and actually speak, but you're in a group communicating. You're problem solving because you got to figure out, you're critically thinking through, okay, what do we have in common? And you have a little bit of relationship building as well. So I emphasize that because those soft skills really help you get there. And what really drives is what got you here won't get you there.
Mhm.
Because as you continue to grow as a leader, it becomes less about what you can do and more what you can do through people. I shared this with somebody the other day is that, I'm not responsible for going out there and picking. I'm responsible for creating the right environment so that that person can succeed when it comes to picking. So let's think about it from a culture standpoint. If I want to create a culture, I got to be able to communicate. I've got to be able to build relationships, and I have to have emotional intelligence if I really want to build the right culture. If I want to just say, you know what, how do I get efficient in my operation? I've got to critically think. I've got to be able to
Yep.
problem solve. I've got to be able to communicate, and I have to be innovative. None of that you can get from learning how to pick. And then we deal with problems every single day,
Yep.
different scenarios. We talked about agile teams. You have to have emotional intelligence to be able to do that. So as much as we want to say that, the more you know, the more you're going to be successful, really it's those soft skills that drive you. Research shows 85% of your success on the job is soft skills itself. And I share with people all the time, man. I was like, I've met a lot of smart, dumb people. You could be smart, but I would not want to follow you. I would not want
Yep.
to be around you or anything like that. So that's why I really stress to individuals of really working on those soft skills, because it doesn't matter what I know, but if I don't know how to apply it, if I don't know how to get people to do it, especially as you continue to move up, you're pretty much obsolete.
Yeah, 100%, man. If you want to move up, particularly in this industry, the
Mhm.
higher you go, the more your soft skills come to the forefront. And if you don't have them, if you haven't developed them along the way, it's very difficult to catch up really fast. It's not
Very
like
good.
you can learn things about metrics, accounting, lean, all these things. You can learn them from a book, but you
Yep.
must develop soft skills along the way. That must be an active thing that you do. You can't, very difficult to learn them. You won't come off as authentic. People will see through
Yep.
you. And, and, and it's not going to work.
Nope.
Particularly in this industry. Now, let me ask this question because there's like 2 letters in the warehousing world right now, and actually all the world right now, which is the 2 hottest letters, and they are A and I. I get asked about it all the time, right? So AI, okay, it's like I feel like I can't do a podcast without bringing AI up in the show because it's getting to be so hot. So you I've seen you post about this, about how important it is to remind people that AI is a powerful tool, but is just a tool. That your human brain is still the blueprint. So, what do you think about creativity, critical thinking, judgment, EQ, all those things in the world of AI? Because I have middle schoolers and they're all about AI, right? Like they're all about AI. They think it solves everything. And I try to tell them, I'm like, it's just the summary of everybody. You're like, it's not generating anything. It's not really creating anything. So where do you feel about that? Because I feel like AI is great, but I think I don't want it to replace the things that make us very human, creativity and judgment and all those things. Love too on the other side. So where do you come down on it?
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you, man. AI is a tool, and we talked about it earlier. The blending of technology and the different things that we do. It really is a tool. So AI is you put information out and you get an output. It gives you data to be able to do it. So I'll use a real simple example, right? I wanted to use AI. I don't need a trainer. So I go on there and say, hey, create me a workout program that's going to allow me to lose weight in 6 weeks. Boom, you don't even have to think. It spits it out for you.
Yeah,
But really, at the end of the day, who has to put it in action?
that's
You
right.
have to, right? You have to do it. What about those mornings when you're tired and you've
Yep.
worked all day? You have to develop the discipline within yourself to be able to do it, to push through. Or when you're in the middle of the workout and you're like, man, I don't want to add that weight. AI is not going to add the weight on for you. You've got to dig within yourself to be able to get that fortitude to be able to push through. And also just, a lot of people use AI to write papers, to
Yep.
communicate and do all those different things, which is great, right? Because, I'll put an email together and I say, okay, make this sound more eloquent. And then it'll
Yeah.
revise it for me. It's my words, but it'll revise it. But
Yeah.
here's the other side of that. The output gave me the words, but who still has to deliver it?
Yeah.
I gotta deliver it. I've got to
Right.
deliver it the right tone. I gotta be able to deliver with compassion, say it the right way. I've got to react and respond to nonverbals. AI is not going to tell you, hey, if so and so does this, you do that, right? So all those things still come into play because critical thinking is not going anywhere. You have to be able to critically think, have the judgment, and also just be creative because what we have now is there's a I don't know gap. A lot of individuals come into situations and say, I don't know. I don't know. AI will give you that answer. They'll be able to do it, but you still are substituting your ability to go out and research. You're
Yep.
substituting your ability to go out and read. and learn new things and be curious about those different things as well. But also, you got to take inventory of yourself and say, okay, where are my weaknesses and how do I get better? And once again, it has to be those actions. You've got to be able to do that. So AI is a great tool, but it's not a replacement for a lot of the things that you have to do uh, in action and face to face when those scenarios come about.
Yeah, and I tell other people, I go, the more that society, the more people begin to just rely wholesale on AI, if you are creative and you have good judgment and you have critical thinking, those are even more valuable than they were before because now they're even more rare. I mean, everybody it used to be you would go to school because you needed to have knowledge. Well, now knowledge is just readily available for everyone. So
Exactly.
having knowledge
Exactly.
is not really a competitive advantage anymore. What is now is those other intangible things like what you already talked about that would separate you from the pack. So
Exactly.
you know,
Because when you get in a
yeah,
situation, right, you imagine this, right? You're on the floor and you're working, and then a problem comes up. Hey, hold on, team. Let me go talk to AI, and then I'll come back to you. No, they're expecting you to make
yeah.
that decision right then and there. You're building your credibility. That gives confidence in you as a leader. You go run the AI and come back, they're gonna look at you like, I don't know if this is the right guy that we follow. He knows to use the right tool, but I don't think he can think on the spot.
They're gonna start calling you Allen Iverson. That's
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. So all right, man. So we came out of the Air Force Academy at the exact same time, the exact same year, so the same class, like,
Yep.
shut them down, open up shop, right?
That's right. Bong.
One time in my life, I used to like that song, Bernard, before I started Beast, and then I had about enough of it, you know what I'm saying?
I know.
The no one listening to the show will know what we were talking about, with that, but we will that from O3. But,
Exactly.
anyway, so but you have a military background, I have a military background, and there are lots of other people that have a military background that transition out and go to work in warehousing and distribution. So, you what do you feel about your how did your background in the military kind of shape the type of leader that you were in warehousing and distribution? And, was it kind of like, were there a lot of parallels, or did you find that, wow, this is way different, I have to kind of start from scratch? So what did you carry over with you, and what did you kind of had to learn as you go?
Yeah, I think the one thing I carried over was just taking care of people.
Yeah.
The people came before the mission, and it was very, very important. You had to have the right team around you. Your team had to feel safe within you because you're in life and death situations, right? And they got to be able to
Yeah.
trust you. And you have to be what they need you to be. I keep referring back to Japan. I had guys that were getting in trouble, and I would personally pick them up and take them to work every single day,
Yeah.
or they were having kids and didn't know how to be a father. And I'm mentoring them. I'm learning, myself. So those things that carry over to where you definitely do have to take care of people and make sure that they feel that they're not a number at the end of the day. I think another thing that carried over too, especially in warehouse, man, is just process discipline.
Yeah.
People are process and process discipline. I was a flyer, so the checklist was important. And I'm on these missions and I'm doing different things, and there's a certain protocol that you have to do. And if you broke that protocol, it showed a loss of efficiency, but more
Yeah.
so in the military, the loss of somebody's life or limb. So I
Yeah.
carry that over to be able to know that, that's always the first question I ask is like, hey, well, what was the process? Did we follow the process? Let's go back and make sure that we did what we needed to do, or we do our due diligence and not just point the finger at individuals as well. I think the hardest thing for me to change was in the military, we have inherited authority. So if I
Yeah.
say, hey, go do this,
Yep.
you're gonna go do it. And I remember my first job at Target, I came in barking orders. Hey, you do this and you do that. And I remember telling my boss at the time, I was like, I've never worked in a job where 95% of the guys are sensitive. and he just looked at me and laughed because they weren't doing what they're supposed to do. And I
Yep.
had this, I was telling them, I wasn't asking them what to do. So
Yep.
I quickly had to learn how truly important connection was with individuals. And at the time, the Target had this thing called the Best Team Survey, where your team ranks you or rates you on your basically your review. And my first 6 months, I was what they call a red leader, and
Yep.
it was embarrassing, right? Because here
Yep.
I am, I'm the Japanese liaison to the Air Force in Japan. I'm leading this big unit, and then I come in this warehouse, and it's like, nah, you're not that big guy. You need to chill
No.
out. No. So I quickly learned that that was the best way to lead and be successful, was truly, truly build a genuine connection with your people, and they'll do anything for you.
Yep. No, I agree with you 100%. I have some horror stories of that too when I first started out, and you don't mean anything by it. You just
Yep.
green. You haven't learned yet, and that's why I sometimes will kind of give guidance to vets who contact me who are getting out and they're going to work for Amazon or they're going to work for Target, and I just sort of condition them to that. You talk about a blue collar hourly labor force in this industry. It's different, man, and
Yeah.
it's going to take a little bit of time to get used to that. So
Yep.
let me ask this question, kind of the last question now. You you are very honest and open when you talk about, your leadership stuff and everything. And sometimes in the industry, you get in the HR realm and there's certain walls or certain barriers that you can't cross when it comes to people's professional life and how they handle themselves and their personal life. But some people will say those really need to be kind of like blended now because it's very difficult for somebody to be good at their work and then a complete turd when they're at home with their life and their family and everything. So where do you come down on that? You think that people have the capability of just turning it on and off, and I can be a complete, you know, zero on my home life and my family and still be good in my career? Or do you think that people really should kind of have one life, one way, to use a phrase there for both of them? What do you think on that?
Yeah, I think everybody should have a one life, one way. It, let's if we take a step back, right? If you really truly want to be a holistic and comprehensive person, you have to be able to do it in all aspects of your life. If you
Yep.
want legacy, if you want lasting impact, you have to be it all. And I made that mistake. I was when I was in the military and it got out, I was this great leader. I'm like, hey, I'm killing the game,
Yep.
but I was a terrible
Yep.
father, right? And then I was like, okay, I'm winning in one aspect. I can't talk about all this and not do it in my own life. So then what I did is I took the same principles I was doing at work and I did it with my kids. And what I saw was not only did I become a better father, it actually made me a better leader because I
Love it.
tapped into different parts of my brain from an emotional intelligence standpoint that I would have never even looked at, because being a father and some of the principles, it really made me more aware and comprehensive. But then taking it even further, I was a terrible friend. So then I said,
Yep.
okay, well, I can't be this great dad and this great
Yep.
leader, and then people don't want to be around me. So then once
Yep.
I did that, not only did I become a better friend, it made me an even better father and leader overall. So now I became this comprehensive person. So then what happened was everybody got the best version of me. There was nobody that got anything or shortchanged, and it really helped me grow overall. So it's really tough to say that you can separate it. Some people do it, but you're really limiting the impact that you truly have, because as an individual in this world, we should want to have a long lasting impact in all aspects of our life every day, right? Because to me, a value is a value is a value is a value. It never changes. Now, how you
Yep.
use the value may change, but the value doesn't change based on the situation. So you can't say you're an honorable guy at work and then get there and say, "Well, I'm too busy. I can't be." Honor is honor all the way across the. So I truly believe in the one way, one life, if you really want to have the impact that you say you want to have.
Yep, I agree, and I feel I have nothing to back this up, right? It's just my own feeling, but I feel like, I feel like you have a certain type of energy about you, right? Your personality, how you carry yourself, there's an energy, there's a wavelength, there's a frequency that comes from that, and there's a light,
Yeah.
and you don't control directly, you can't turn that off and on, right? Like you can't change that. It gets set naturally and people pick up on that naturally. And I think if you change it or you try to mask it a little bit, other people have the same receptors to pick up their energy and they'll know it's not authentic. Right. They won't hear saying words, they won't be able they might not their intuition is going to tell them that it's not natural. So I think you're 100% right on that. And it's tough because we're talking into an area right here that, I don't know if I would have a conversation with this like on the warehouse floor with somebody, but I mean, I think it's just a part of life, for people listening to the
Yeah.
show. There's no HR that's monitoring the show, Vernard, by the way. Like, so we're free to,
But here's
free to
a
talk.
here's a but here's a challenge though. You should have it on the floor, right? Because if we
Yeah.
talk about true leadership, if we talk about true impact, if we talk about true high performing teams, you have to be what your team needs you to be in that given moment. So yes, I'll use the example. There was a guy that worked for me that nobody wanted to deal with, had a terrible attitude. People wanted to fire him, all this other stuff. He was great at his job, but he was a terrible person. Now, I didn't have to tell him to go out and hey, we need this done. What I needed him to learn is how to navigate his emotional intelligence in life. And by me
Yeah.
being there for him, not only did he perform, this guy got promoted to a lead, then he got promoted to a
Yep.
supervisor. And I still talk to him to this day, all because I was there for what he needed. And yes, we have performance guidance that's out there, right? Did you do this? Did you do quality? Did you do
Yeah.
that? Yeah, we have to do those. But when we talk about true leadership and really having an impact, you've got to be what that person needs you to be to get the best performance out of them. Because in the end, the customer will benefit.
Yep. I love it, man. Incredible stuff and insight. So where can people find out more about you? Like what, I follow you on LinkedIn. I hope everybody does once they see all the posts and everything from this, but where can they find you and what do you got? I mean, what do you got lined up for the 2026 and beyond? I mean, more of the
Yeah,
same, or are you new ideas, or what do you think?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also I'm on Instagram. It's leadership soft skills with a Z at the end. You can plug into that. I'm going to continue the teaching and showing. Really get more exposure on different podcasts with different
Yeah.
individuals going to 2026, and I want to evolve uh, dinner conversations with Dr. V, and I want to create a series called The Elephant in the Room. All right.
Okay.
Reason why I say the elephant in the room is because a lot of times we talk about leadership in life and this kind of linear type way, or we put like these great stars on, right? These guys that went from rags to riches. But for me and you, that's not our everyday story. Like we really deal with hard
Yeah.
different things. Nobody talks about when you get tough feedback from your team and that drive
Yep.
home where you're feeling really bad about it.
Yep.
Nobody talks about that, right? Nobody talks about when you're truly not feeling valued and you try and you try and you try and it's just not going anywhere. I want to have those conversations. Those are the elephant in the room, real leadership challenges from real individuals that are out there working, doing the day to day, and
Yep.
they just want to talk about it and have those conversations. So that's what I got brewing in the background. I've talked to
Love
a
that.
lot of people about it, and they said, V, you need to do it. You need to do it. So
Yeah.
I'm looking to do that. The other piece too is I'm looking to continue to teach the youth. So I volunteer for this thing called Academy 4, where they teach you mentor fourth graders and you teach them soft skills. I'm also incorporate myself into the high school as well to try to teach lessons or whatnot. So I definitely want to get into teaching and just volunteering as well. And then the last piece in 2026 is I really want to help my organization grow to the next level. Every time I go as a leader, it's all about sustainability. My job is to make myself obsolete. If I'm in there and
Yeah.
I'm still doing things, I did not help support my team. So, I recently just sat down with my ops team and we talked through the 2026 strategy that I created and the principles and different things that we are going to go by to govern and guide our decisions. And we've actually started that. These guys are hitting the ground running big time. To see our alignment and really see it come to life next year, I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome, dude. I love it, man. Well, dude, great show. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
We didn't know each other at the academy. I was in 4 and you were in 35. So completely different sides.
Yeah, completely opposite.
But yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show. You're a bright light, my friend, a very genuine, putting out some great stuff out there for the community. I hope everybody follows you and like I do, and the best of luck to you and your organization for 2026 and beyond, man. So thanks again, and I hope we can do another show sometime.
Yeah,
Come back for a
definitely.
live
I
show.
appreciate it.
Show.
I'm very honored, man. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, my friend. I'll see you around on the LinkedIn streets, as they say.
Right.
Take care. See ya.
Take care.
All right, guys, that concludes today's show. Vernard, look him up on LinkedIn. Follow his stuff. He is great. He's genuine. If you yourself don't benefit from it, you may know or you may manage people that could. Send them his way, right? Some very good stuff. So thanks again for coming on the show, my friend. As the Warehouse Underground goes, please sign up for the community. I think we have almost 230 people who have signed up for the Warehouse Underground community. Live shows, networking events, message boards in there. Some very good stuff going on inside the community. Check out the other show that I mentioned, the Tiger Team show. We've released 6 episodes with my co-host Jordan. You can hear that show on Spotify or Apple. And it's sarcastic wit and humor and that slant, all about things going on in the world of warehouses and distribution centers and fulfillment centers. So I think you guys will like that show and check that out for some comic relief. As this podcast goes, thank you again for tuning in. I will see you next week for episode number 31. Thank you. God bless.